I'm going on here. I just want to come back where cancer is conventional. I think don't get it. It means that someone just flying across state line or a state pool. State pools often have a tendency to fall apart. They've got to run into it. I'm not going to throw them out. They've got problems.
Good Lord.
I want to try to answer your question because there's some things I was going to elaborate on. The things I mentioned, I do think are substantive in themselves. What we've already talked about is it wouldn't cover all of us, I'm sure, that want to help with that. It would cover those who have catastrophic illnesses or something that what I talked about. Those things would be done, which are significant. Those are the issues the administration mentions most of the time as the reasons for government taking over this. But let me tell you, we got a couple examples here that are very important. And one is, how many of you remember when the government controlled, I'm getting at something, because I think that the fundamental answer to your question is a free market innovation in healthcare. I believe that that's the big thing. We have an example that I wish we'd look at more. When the government controlled our telephone company, remember that, Ma Bell? Did you know Ma Bell was actually a private company, but it was completely controlled by government? So when they talk about these non-profit, what do they call it? Co-ops. That's just a euphemism for government controlling it. So don't be fooled by that. But when Ma Bell was in place, we had one old clunky telephone that the operator gets smart with you every time you talked. And long distance cost in today's dollars about $3.10 a minute. And so we said, well, and we had all kinds of government controls here. And we said, we've got to do something different. So we broke it up. I voted to help break it up when I was in the legislature. And we broke it up. And look what happened. Look what happened. It took a little while. It was going to take us a long time to get there. And it's going to take us a little while to get out from under this health care thing. But when they talk about cost, there's only a few ways to deal with cost. You can either tax the taxpayers more, you pay for more. You can give less care, or you can do innovation to what the American people are famous for, and make this cost less because of innovation. And what we did on the telephone companies, we broke it up and we put it out there to the private sector, and we said, now we've got to protect those people who cannot afford, because everybody said, well, the little old lady up in the hills now, she won't have help. She won't have a telephone. We said, okay, we got to make sure that happens. So we said, if you're going to take this area on, you got to cover the little old lady up in the hills. Well, what happened though? All of a sudden people thought, man, I can make some money coming up with an innovative approach, with something that will make this cheaper and more quality. And how many of you have a cell phone? Now let me tell you what that represents. I took mine off because I didn't want it buzzing, but I can get my website on my telephone. I can access the Library of Congress now. And long distance is 3 cents a minute. It's 100 times cheaper than it was when the government controlled it. The only way we're really going to deal with it, because it's right, the cost is astronomical, and it's going up in double digits, and we've got to do something about it. But you know, when you're going down the wrong road, and part of that is because of government involvement. Do you know that there's 2 types of examples that I can think of healthcare costs that are going down? It's the 2 that government won't insure, won't mess with, and insurance companies won't mess with. It's like to do what is it when they fix your face, a facelift?
Plastic surgery.
Plastic surgery. You know those prices are plummeting? It's because people have a choice whether to buy them or not. And see, when you put that sounds like a silly example, but when you put competition to work, and that's what we really have to do, innovation occurs. In a government system, innovation there's no incentive for it. And so, I apologize. But the reality is, the only way that we're really going to deal with healthcare costs is to come up with new ways. Let me give you one example, and I'm through, I promise, about this part. And this, for all of the folks here that may have a cancer issue, this is not accomplished yet, so please don't say, where can you get this treatment? But there's a group out there working on a cancer treatment where they inject your body with a certain substance that goes throughout the entire cellular structure of your body, passes the blood-brain barrier, goes even into the spinal cord areas. And as long as you stay in a dark area, it's completely inert. It's not poison. And after about 24 to 48 hours, it disperses out of your body, except in cancer cells. It stays in cancer cells. And then when you hit it with bright light, it turns that substance toxic and kills only the cancer cells in your body. It's amazing. And I believe they're saying that if they get this perfected, it will cost maybe $2,000 for a complete radical cure of cancer. And the main things that are causing a lot of this healthcare expense is things like heart attacks and cancer and diabetes and strokes and things like that. And we're coming up with more and more ways to deal with that. But innovation, and I think the idea of incenting people to try to take care of themselves is critically important. But the idea of government doing it, we've tried it before. The highway of history is littered with the wreckage of socialism, folks. And I don't want to see us go down that road.
I can honestly tell you, sir, I agree with every syllable you just said. Somebody said that in one of these countries where they have universal socialist medicine, that if you have a cold, you call a doctor. But if you have diabetes or a heart attack or cancer, you call a travel agent. Because when I come to America, and I tell you, I'm one that truly believes what you said about us having the greatest system in the world still. It's not perfect. We can do better. We always have done better as time goes along. But it is the best in the world, and I can say to you that I personify that in a sense because I had 11 surgeries before I was 9 years old. And if it hadn't been for real good doctors like you, sir, I wouldn't be able to stand here and people understand what I'm saying. So thank you.
Remember, keep it short.
I want to preface it with that I voted for you every time. But I actually represent a paradigm shift that is coming with the new generation of young people who, believe it or not, are super intelligent. And they're seeing through some of these policies, although unintended, that are having a very dramatic effect on their future. And to bring it clearly, all of these problems we are having, health, defense, all of these solutions, my faith and hope is not in you, Congressman Franks. It's in Jesus Christ. Amen. I understand that not everybody else has that same view. And we live in America, so we can have a different opinion. I understand that. What I'm saying, and excuse me because I'm passionate about this, we the people are the solution. Our right to solve it ourselves has been taken away. If you look at healthcare alone, the church started that. People who wanted to serve, they started it and they did a great job until private business took over. If we look at our national defense, my daughter, who had the privilege of coming to school here, asked me one day, "Dad, we have to be at war. What are we going to do when the bad people come and drop bombs on us?" And I told her, can I tell her the fact that we sold them the bombs? Our military, we're in the business, the United States is in the business of building a military-industrial complex. We will have wars till my daughter's daughters if we don't get out of that business. I have an army of friends throughout this world who tell me the gospel is not expanding because our military is coming in and we as Americans are
Well, you mentioned a lot of different issues. I want you to know I'm someone that can not only appreciate your faith, but embrace it. And at the same time, you mentioned some things about the intelligence of young people, and I believe that. My hope is that the younger generation
with their intelligence, will be able to understand just enough about history to know what some of the realities that we had to face on. Now, I understand that there's a lot of people that, you know, decry America's military strength, but let me suggest to you that if it weren't for the arsenal of freedom, a lot of people would be under the most crushing burdens of communism. To peace in the world. I think you and I would agree on that. I'm going to say this, I don't say this as a congressman, I say this as a citizen that is just expressing his own perspective. That I believe the hope of the world is faith in the God that made us and has the ability to make all things right. And if we treat each other in a kind way, you know, Jesus said to love your enemies, love your neighbor. If we all did that, a lot of these problems would go away.